Welcome to this episode of 10 Minutes with Sam, and this is Akshat Singh. Our guest today is Dr. Sreeradha Datta. Dr. Datta is an expert on South Asian foreign policy and has authored several books on Bangladesh, Myanmar, and India's Northeast. Dr. Datta is also the center head for Neighbourhood Studies and a senior fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you, Akshat. Happy to be here.
Ma'am, the format of the show is fairly simple. We have 10 minutes, and in these 10 minutes, we'll try covering as much ground as possible. So let me just get to the first question. Ma'am, we know that India's relations with the neighboring states right now are at best fraught and at worst tension-filled. Do you see any improvements in this situation particularly?
You know, in international politics, every state is trying to keep relationship stable, but especially in the neighborhood it's always been a challenge for everyone and for India specifically. Right now I would say there's certain issues that specific issues that India has with some of the neighbors, but then again there's a lot of, this is basically a work in progress for India and the neighbors. And if you recall, Sri Lanka's foreign minister just said that they're launching a India first neighbor policy. So that obviously means that there is a kind of a stable relationship that's developing with Sri Lanka. India's relationship with Maldives is very good. With Bhutan is extremely, in a very cooperative framework. And I think the issue that's often been raised right now in the present context is its relationship with Nepal. Over the boundary issue, there has been a bit of difficulty and a friction. But again, the fact that Nepal and India have a unique relationship, not only in the South Asian region, but elsewhere, you cannot replicate the kind of things that they share. So under those circumstances, I would say that they're working on it. And while India and Bangladesh are certainly standing at a very good place, I think the relationships in the neighborhood is a work in progress, and I am very positive about the way the outcome will be in the years to come.
Ma'am, you mentioned Nepal, and that's very interesting because the relationship between India and Nepal has historically been very, very amiable. And we saw recently that a longtime friend, if not an adversary, but then turned into a unique foe in the recent past. There was also a call on August 15, which was made from New Delhi to Nepal to particularly address these issues. What sort of impact do you think this interaction would have on our relationship with Nepal?
Very positive. I wouldn't really label Nepal as a foe. As I'm saying, it's a particular difficult period, and they were probably, and I think that phone call would have made an impact because they're certainly looking forward to engagement. And I think several, their foreign minister and at various levels, the leaders in the country has mentioned that they want to engage with India. So obviously, they're very, I think, would be looking forward to taking this forward. And I'm sure, as I said, and you mentioned that, given the depth of the relationship, there is hardly any issue that India and Nepal can't work together on. And this is something that I'm sure can be resolved through conversation and deeper engagement.
You mentioned that India largely has good relationships with its neighboring states, and you mentioned Bhutan, you mentioned Maldives, Sri Lanka, and which brings me naturally to SAARC. And in a recent article that you wrote, you mentioned how SAARC has seen roadblocks in the recent past, and you specifically mentioned how Bhutan's role in the regional road transportation network has impacted that. So my question to you is, do you think SAARC has a pertinent future? And if so, what sort of changes would we need to bring in order to make that future viable?
First and foremost, SAARC is the core regional organization in the region. So there is an intrinsic importance that the organization has. While I also argue at the same time, given the kind of members that exist, I'm not even talking about India-Pakistan political difficulties. I'm saying Afghanistan's interest can never coincide with Maldives' interest. Sri Lanka's interest can never coincide with Bhutan's interest, and vice versa, and India's interest with all of them. So, given the geographical space, given the priority differences, given the concerns, very varied concerns that all of the member states have, it is very difficult, apart from some very issues like, say, disaster management, environment related issues, poverty related issues. They are core issues that all of them are working closely on. But that apart, I somehow feel in South Asia, within the SARC organization, sub-regional way is the way to go forward. And I think, which is the point that you refer about Bhutan. Yes, Bhutan has talked about environmental difficulties, about the seamless motor vehicle agreement that they had initially signed on. There's also a bit of the problem about the truckers lobby, who are apprehensive about what loss it would mean in terms of sheer commerce if the other truckers take over. But again, I'm saying, while India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, I think the trial run is over and they're hoping to take this forward. There's some technical issues that they're working out. But over the years, when Bhutan understands that how it actually benefits each of them and the region together, I'm sure Bhutan and some of the other members, if possible, will be on board. In South Asia, as the way I see it, within SARC, at this point of time in history, I think sub-regional approach is the best way to take the region forward, take the regionalism forward.
That makes sense, ma'am. And of course, whenever there are contending benefits for each state, there seems to be some sort of conflict. But let's talk again about India's individual relationship with countries. Ma'am, India's foreign secretary recently visited Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, and that visit was considered not very successful, particularly because of the snub from the Bangladeshi side. How do you see this event, and what do you think would be the potential outcomes of this?
In fact, just a few days before this particular visit, if you recall, Bangladesh Foreign Minister Mr. Momin had in another event said that India and Bangladesh are rock solid neighbors. So I would feel, let's focus on that. Yes, this particular recent visit of the Foreign Secretary has got a bit of media flag, but I think more because the media never understood what was this visit all about, and But I think India and Bangladesh stand at a very good position just now. The kind of bilateral arrangement that they are working on, which will expand into regionalism, sub-regionalism, and regionalism, and Bangladesh is part of many of the regional organizations that India is part of. I think there is huge prospects in the way. Of course, and again, where Bangladesh and India is concerned, the main issue is about perception management. So there are a couple of core issues that Bangladesh would want India to address, and I'm absolutely sure India will be able to do that in the days to come. But I think the perception management should have been far better, not only about this visit, but in total about the bilateral relation, which I think is standing at a good place.
Absolutely, ma'am. One of the large questions which has entered the region or the domain of South Asian politics recently is the role of China. And India's little border tension with China and China's active, increasing engagement in the South Asian region, be it in Myanmar, be it in Bangladesh, hasn't really helped with that. So my question is, ma'am, what do you think China is trying to do by actively engaging in the South Asian region? And do you think whether India has lost its hold on South Asian politics as it once had?
Let me begin with China first. My take on China and South Asia is that anything that they do in South Asia has an Indian context. I mean, their entire, the large picture is directed about India. So, so if the engagement, the very deep engagement with Sri Lanka, with Bangladesh, with Nepal, as of in recent months, I would say. So, and of course, Maldives, and we know that though they don't have an official relationship with Bhutan, but they have been sending out feelers to Bhutan too. So I think India would naturally be cautious and wonder what was happening. And we've seen the debt crisis issue in Sri Lanka, while in Bangladesh that hasn't been the case. Also, at the same time, while Bangladesh has in recent weeks ago has asked for some particular project funding from China, and over the years, if you look at the BRI project that China had launched in the South Asian region with great grandeur, actually on the ground the implementations have been really low. There's hardly anything that's come out of it. But Indian concerns about how China is using the neighbors or managing the neighbors is something that I would obviously, keep my antenna about.
Absolutely, ma'am. And that actually brings us to the end of 10 minutes. Thank you so much for being on the show, ma'am. And we'll speak with you very soon again. Thank you.
Pleasure.